So
Okay. That's
yeah,
what.
yeah, but
Now let me ask you something. Let me ask you another question. So now,
okay.
if you was a dispatcher, you got a couple carriers, that you're working with. Would you be able to like call up shippers and get them to try? Can you get loads from them?
Yeah, yeah. You just gotta you pitch to the shippers the same way you pitch to the brokers on the load. Like if you got shippers who got loads posted, or if you got shippers that you got in your area and you got like a fleet. So you got a trucking company that they want you to dispatch for them. You got like 10 trucks or 5 trucks that they have, and you're dispatching for them. So you say, okay, I'm gonna take all these trucks to this one shipper and say, we got 5 truck capacity to try to get some of your loads. They'll be willing to work with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the shippers will work with a dispatcher, so you can build a relationship with a shipper then.
You can, but I wouldn't call yourself a dispatcher. I would say like operations manager or something like that, because for whatever reason these days, the word dispatcher seems to have a bad taste in people's mouth.
Okay, I seen that on one of your videos. I seen you say that before.
Yeah.
Operations manager.
Yeah, operations manager, or you could say fleet manager. You write that down too. You could say fleet manager, operations manager, something like that, and then go from there.
Okay. Manager. Or operations manager.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, truthfully, have you built up any relationships with shippers as a dispatcher?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
So
yes,
they're quicker to talk to the dispatcher than the broker then, huh?
With shippers, their goal is shippers have a target rate that they want to sell their loads for. Like shippers have customers. Like say I'm a shipper and one of my customers like Walmart, and I need to get my load from my shipping warehouse to my Walmart customers within, let's use Baltimore as an example where you're from or the area. So say I got 10 locations in Baltimore and I'm a shipper in Baltimore and I need to get this freight from my shipping warehouse to those locations. So if you come to me as a fleet manager and say, hey, I work as a fleet manager or operations manager for a local trucking company, I can help you with your capacity of getting those loads from your warehouse to your customer. And you're talking to the shipper, right? So they'll say, okay, yeah, so what do you got? You say, well, I got some dry van trailers, tractor and trailers that I can help, run those lanes for you. So now the shipper has a target rate that they're going to sell those lanes for. Let's say it's going from A to B for like $1,000, right? And that's their target rate. So whether they sell it directly to a carrier company or the broker, that number is always going to be the same. It's going to be $1,000. Now with the broker, if they happen to get a broker, the broker may slide in and say, okay, I got 100 trucks. I got 100 trucks, so I can meet your capacity better than someone who just has 10 trucks. So the shipper may go with that because they say, I got 100 trucks. The broker doesn't necessarily have the 100 trucks themselves, their own assets. They may have contracted carriers who they have a broker carrier agreement with. It may not all be they may not be an asset-based brokerage. They may have contracted carriers. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that the shipper decides to say, I want to go with this local company. They seem like they're genuine, like you. So let's say you got 10 trucks, I'll go with you, but that target rate is going to be the same, $1,000. So you get that money directly. If they would have went to the broker would have may have taken 20% off the top and then resold that load to a carrier for the difference. So 20% of the 1,000 is, $200. So they would have sold the load for $800 and they would have kept $200 off the top.
Right.
That's how the broker operates. So in either case, the shipper is selling the load for $1,000. They don't care how the load gets from A to B. That's their target. They call it a target rate. That's their target rate.
Correct.
So.
Okay.
But it is ideal to start with learning the load boards. You got to learn the load boards anyway because some shippers put their loads on the load boards. Some shippers do not put their loads on the load boards. The ones who do not put their loads on the load boards, what that means is they don't have a need to put them on the load boards because they have enough trucks, they have enough carriers, enough brokers with trucks to handle their capacity. So they don't have a need to post their loads on the load board. That's why they don't. So just because you don't see a shipper on the load board doesn't mean that they don't exist, right? So, but the ones who put their loads on the load board, they may be struggling with the rate of that load, and they're just trying to see who will bite on that bait, you know. So it's a numbers game. It's just like, you know, it's like the hustle game. It's a numbers game. So you follow that? I think I lost Mike there for a minute. You still with me, Mike? I lost you there for a minute.
Okay, I'm here, Gabe.
Yeah, I lost you there for a minute. Yeah, but you get the idea though, right? As far as how that works.
Yeah, I got the idea. I got the concept of it, definitely.
So now, I guess with you is you just have to find carriers who want you to work with them. Sometimes you can go after carriers who are new.
Yeah, I seen you say that, but you said you have a lot of trouble with new carriers because brokers don't want to deal with a lot of new carriers, right?
Right, but I did provide a list of brokers who do deal with new carriers. There's like a list of like 11 brokers that you. So if you get
I got that from you. I wrote that down.
Yeah. So then, say you get in a conversation with a carrier and you determine that they were new. So now you're going to reference your brokers who cater to the new carriers, and those are the only brokers you'll reach out to, depending on where your carrier is located at the time and if they have a load available for them there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you do that.
So now let me ask you this: now dealing with those companies like Knight and TQL, the ones you said.
Right.
Now, if you dealing with them with new brokers, are they going lowball a carrier and get them less money because they new?
They may try to do that starting off, and based off of how much experience you have as a dispatcher, they may start off. But even if that's the case, you might take a $50 or $100 loss. But the good part about it is you're getting that time and experience with your new carrier under the belt. So as time goes on, you can slowly progress away from those brokers who deal with new carriers, because now you're getting time, like 3 months, 6 months. So now you can open up the floodgates to other brokerages, because now you got time under your belt. So you might have to take a little loss. You see what I'm saying?
I got you. I understand you fully. You're basically using them for a few references where they can, get established as they got a little bit of experience, where you can branch off and, get better paying, rates or whatever.
Correct. And then once you start gaining experience, especially if your carrier is doing well, delivering the loads on time, no accidents, no claims, stuff like that. So now their CSA scores are going to be good enough so they can go to anybody and then start getting the better paying loads, especially based off of the equipment type that that they have.
Okay.
So, but yeah. So once you so we just got to get you to the point where you can get some time and get that under your belt and go from there. Because you seem from based off this conversation, you seem like you know where you need to go. It's just getting that
Well, it's not like I really I know where to go. It's just I'm observing. I done observed you, and I'm looking at this from a dispatcher. Then I watch a few of your freight broker videos also. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to get the concept. Like I'm gonna ask you. Do you have any cases where dispatchers transition to freight brokers?
Yeah. Yeah, I have one. I have dispatchers transition to freight broker agents, and then they work under the brokerage, and then get experience that way.
Under the brokerage, okay. And then what? Now let's just say, so what dispatchers? They still do dispatching and freight brokering?
Yeah, it's possible because while they're building their freight brokerage, they can still be dispatchers because it's going to take time to build your freight brokerage because you are building what's called a book of business, trying to get shippers to come under your broker. Because again, just like with dispatching and new carriers, with freight brokers as a new freight broker, a lot of shippers are going to be leery to deal with you because number one, you're new, you don't have any experience. What loads have you moved? So you have to transition. It's the same process as a newbie in the dispatching as it is in the freight broker. It's just a different dynamic with that,
But it is possible though.
It's definitely possible. It depends on how a person applies himself. It's definitely possible.
Correct. That's all go with the building a relationship with the shipper also, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. You have to, no matter how you slice it, you have to. It's all about relationships in the industry and how that is applied to what area of the industry that you're currently in, whether you're going to be on the dispatching side or whether you're going to be on the broker side. I would recommend if someone's coming in brand new with no experience in the transportation industry at all, then I would recommend them starting off as the dispatching.
Right.
Because it's an easier and less expensive entry point. You don't pay as much.
Correct.
You don't pay as much to get started. So let me turn my video on. Can you hear me? My audio, mic, and video are on. I was doing some house cleaning while waiting on guys to tune in, guys and girls to tune in. Let me do this once a month. Start series. Okay. All right. Oh, I did it twice. All right. You log out of that. Log out of this. Okay, Mr. Matt. There you go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you. I just wanted to see what other questions you had. I was doing some house cleaning a little bit, but so you said like next year, I guess you're gonna start a clean slate next year as far as
Well,
going after the carrier.
Like I said, I had 2 carriers, I had reached out. I seen your little method. Basically, laid down the blueprint. I seen it. So I tried it. I got 2 of them. And then they basically start harassing me. But, like I said, I didn't want to start half-stepping. Because, I got to go to work, and I don't really have the time to put into it. So I didn't want to really be like, playing with it. When I do it, I want to have time where I can sit at the computer and, I can start talking to brokers or whatever.
You know what you could have did? They wanted you to. You could have sub-dispatched that out to somebody else, and y'all would have split the money. That way, you at work and somebody else dispatching, you could have split the money with them because you found the carrier, and then the other dispatcher found the loads, and then y'all just split the money.
Oh, word? Didn't know that. I see you talk about that like 2 videos ago. I see you saying about it, but not really inquire about it. But
that way you work. You're not even working. If the money's working for you, it's like residual because you found the carriers. You get them under a dispatch agreement, and then you and another dispatcher, y'all have your little side agreement. Say, okay, I got a carrier. You find them lows, and we just split the because you may have other dispatchers who may have a challenge of finding the carriers, but you got a niche, so y'all put y'all 2 skill sets together. They may be good at finding the lows, and they may have more time to be on the low boards and finding lows while you're at work. So you get the carriers, and then they get the lows, so y'all team together, and y'all split the 10%, 5-5.
Mm-hmm.
So what equipment type was the carriers that was harassing you?
One was a reefer, and the other one was a flatbed. But basically, I did the little method. I went to the trucker's path, and I seen them. They posted that they had available truck. So I just I seen you do it. I just went off of your concept, and I did it. And basically, I was talking, I guess, a little bit of the lingo. How I seen you doing it, and basically it seemed like it worked. So but here's another thing. I'm gonna keep this to you. Just trying this out, I done reached out to a couple of shippers, and I see that they're willing to work with dispatchers. So that's why I was asking you, can you really build a relationship with them? Because it seems like they'll work with a dispatcher who have available trucks. And I was just testing the water.
Right. So you pretty much tend to, what you do is you word it to the shippers like, look, I got a fleet of carriers that I'm a fleet manager for. You're not telling them that you dispatch for like 20 different trucks for different companies. You just say I'm a fleet manager for over 20 trucks throughout the United States. So now those shippers, what kind of freight or what kind of commodity were they shipping? Did you get that far in the conversation?
Check it out. I done talked to the logistics manager over there. What's that? Smith Foods. And like I said, I was just testing the waters. to see how
Right.
it goes. And I went kind of like, I said, yeah, you know, I got like 5 trucks in my organization that, you know, I'll be dispatching for. You know, I was basically having a conversation with him. And he was like, yeah, you know, he told me to send him my info and we can link up so, you know, I can have some carriers come and move some of his loads. But like I said, I was just testing the waters. And it seemed like it's feasible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so he said he told you to send him your information?
Yeah, so you know, so he can link, so we can get in contact with where I can start sending some carries for him to move some of his freight.
Right.
But you know, like I said, I ain't got no carries, but I did have the 2 that was harassing me. And but like I said, but no, you laughing? I'm serious though. I don't want to half step on that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So basically, I was just testing the water to see how this goes. So it
Right.
looked like it's feasible to me. That's my opinion.
Right.
And like you said, like I be watching you. I just think my opinion is, yo, everything goes on the presentation.
Correct.
And basically to convince the carrier what you can do for him. And I use your method. Listen, it ain't about what I can do for you. It's just about you getting some money.
Right.
I'm not, you know, this is not a guaranteed contract, and you know what I'm saying. You can quit when you want. All you got to do is just try it out. So maybe it was just the way, you know, I was presenting myself to him. And like I said, he just started harassing him. But you know, I was just testing though. So you know, I didn't do anything, or whatever. And I'm not really set up yet with everything to, you know, be fully functional.
Okay. So now with the shipper too, you can look at it like this. So if you send that shipper your information, just your contact information, and then he or she reaches out to you, asking you of your availability for trucks, you can leverage that shipper into the dispatcher one-on-one network for other dispatchers, and you can get a percentage for that too. So that's another way you can make money.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, see, so if you provide a shipper that has steady and good freight and is moving pretty good and it's paying a decent cents per mile for whatever equipment type that it is. Let's say it's a dry van type of shipper that ships in dry vans, and let's say that they're on average the minimum cents per mile that they're paying is like $2.25, $2.50. So if you get that shipper on board with you and you say, okay, I'm gonna put this shipper's information into the network, and then all the dispatchers who have carriers that meet that requirement of the equipment type and that are in the lane of that shipper's lane, now you've leveraged that shipper into the network. So now all those, not only your carriers, but others dispatchers that are members of this platform's carriers. So so you make money from the shipper's loads for your carriers, and you'll make your regular percentage, and you'll make money for the dispatchers who are members of this platform who have carriers that run loads under the loads of your shippers. So if they move a load for one of your shippers' loads, then you'll get like, let's say 2.5% of the 10% that they may charge.
Yeah, that sounds good. Didn't know that.
You see what I'm saying? So you could make money without even moving your trucks if you got other dispatchers who have carriers who have trucks in those lanes. So you're leveraging the fact that you brought in a good shipper into the platform.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different like angles to kind of play it at, you know. So I don't know if Smith Foods. I'm assuming Smith Foods. I'm assuming it's like refrigerated stuff, maybe some dry goods.
Correct. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they out of Chicago or Michigan. I'm not sure exactly where they at because, you know, like I said, I was just testing the waters. But I've been talking to a few other shippers also, you know, and then basically they thought I was a freight broker, a freight agent. So they was like, oh, we're not taking on no new brokers right now. I said, well, actually, no. And I hit them with your strategy. I'm a fleet manager, and you know, I done talked to a couple shippers, and the way I'm looking at this is feasible from a dispatcher point of view. And I was like, well, the way I've been talking and reaching out to shippers, I was like, well, maybe after the dispatch and I get this experience in, maybe I can move on to be a broker or something.
Well, the advantage of doing it as a dispatcher as opposed to a broker, as a broker, you're kind of bound to the trucks that you have in your brokerage. As a dispatcher, you can go outside of your dispatching, outside of the trucks that you have as your own dispatching company and use other dispatchers' trucks as well. So you're not bound.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Going back to the example I said, if you bring, let's say for example, Smith Foods, you bring that shipper's loads. Say they're trying to move 100 loads a day, and you plug that into the network. I'm sure at this point you may not have 100 trucks that you can move, but you can put it into the network, and everybody else can get a bite of those loads. But you're going to get 2.5% of those loads outside of your trucks, in addition to moving loads for your trucks for your carriers.
Mm-hmm.
And then too,
you just gave me a avenue. I didn't know that.
Right, and then too, when you're marketing or when you're going after carriers, you can say, look, I got direct shippers with not dedicated lanes, but I got direct shipper loads, no brokers. And carriers are going to love to hear that because they realize without a broker, they're keeping the money. They're keeping most of the money. There's no broker involved, so there's nothing taken off the top.
I'm not going to hold you, Charles. That's part of my sales pitch right there. You get what you just said? That's going to be my goal, to try to get direct shippers where they can get more bread. And like I told other two, the more bread for you, you'll be happy and I'll be happy. So basically, I got a little, what would you call it, a little script together. You know what I mean? So I see this is possible, but I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I got big plans. I don't want to keep driving this bus, and truthfully, I got an A license also.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about trying to dispatch now. If it pop off like I think it can. I plan on moving up, also to get assets, also. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let me throw another option at you. You could start a trucking company even without a CDL. You didn't even have to have a CDL to start a trucking. All you gotta do is get an authority. Just get your MC authority, and then you could go to owner operators and lease. They can lease under your authority, and you just charge a certain percentage of the gross that they make per week and you can charge them to lease under your authority, and you can dispatch for them for another percentage. You see what I'm saying?
I done peeped that too. I've been thinking about that one also. I done went to the FMCSA. I already got the fees, how much it costs, and I've been doing a lot of research. So, I got a lot of things on my mind. I don't plan on driving this bus too much longer.
Right. My advice is, just take it, line up, itemize what your plans are, put them in order of, priority or whatever. What can you accomplish the soonest first, and then, so on and so forth.
Right.
Do you want to do dispatching, broker agent? Do you want to start a trucking company? Line them up in terms of, you seem to be good at talking with shippers, so I would leverage that skill set into the dispatching portion, as well as if you were to start a trucking company, then you can lease on owner-operators under your authority and then bring them in front of those shippers with whom you've gotten a relationship with. So now you can build your fleet under your authority without even having assets. They're just owner-operators who's leasing under your authority, but you're keeping them running, so they'll be more than willing to stay with you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Charles, I ain't gonna hold you, man. You're very good at this teaching thing. I've been watching for a little bit, and I done basically, like I said, you done put the blueprint down. I already peeked with the load board. And sorry, one more thing. You never sent me the information for the truck stop, the login for the truck stop. You told me I know you've been busy, so I ain't really been pressing you about it.
No, you good. Cause I got an old email for you. I got a different email from you, not the Quantum Leapers, but I got the other one that you signed up when you paid in PayPal. But I put Yeah, the Mike McMillan. So, which one do you want me to send it to? Well, since you and I are the only ones in the training right now, I may cut this short, but which is cool. I mean, that's cool. I know people, they still got the hangover from the holidays. So since it's just you and I can send you a private. I'm gonna send you a private chat, and Matt, and then let me know if you got that. I said testing.
You sent it right here to the screen or to my email?
To the screen. Are you on the screen? I sent testing. I just tested out in private chat group just to see if you
Okay, so I tap on chat, testing. Okay, yeah, I see it.
Okay, so now which one did you ask for? The truck stop, internet truck stop?
Yeah, the truck stop. Yeah.
Okay, so you got DAT and 123 load board already.
Yeah.
Okay, so internet. I'm typing it now. Internet truck stop. Log in. Username is. And if you don't mind, you can go ahead and log in now just to test it, so I can make sure that it works before we get off the line.
Truck stop.
And I can send you the link to truck stop so you can go directly to it if you want to, right? So doing that right now. So there you go.
Okay. Log in. Here we go. Truck stop low. Which one? I'm going low board login, right?
Well, I sent the link in there. So you click that link where it says https://apps.truckstop.com. You click that, and then you do the low board login. That's correct.
Wait,
and it's gonna.
You sent the link.
Yes, yeah, in the private. The very last thing was a link to it.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back to that screen because I have one truck stop. Okay, I see it right here. Do I just click on that?
Yeah, so it should open up another tab for you on your browser. I lost you for a sec. I think he accidentally hit the wrong. He might have hit to get out of the chat as opposed to. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I clicked on the link and I just was gone. Hold on, let me go back to that. We got messages. That's mine. Oh, that's gone, Charles.
Okay, so
I clicked on one of the links and then everything was gone. So now I just come back to the message, just say lost you for a second. So the links, everything is gone.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm going to send it to your email. Which email do you want me to send it to?
Either one, it doesn't matter. Either one is good.
All right, I'm logging into my email now. So right now, what are your what is this? All right, give me 1 second. Let me see what this one is. So what's your next steps, Mike?
Yo, to be honest with you, Charles, like I said, I'm going to try this dispatcher out, but I got bigger plans though. Like I said, I ain't gonna hold you, man. I'm not gonna hold you. I done checked a lot of these platforms, and I didn't really get too much from them. I think yours is basically the truth from what I done seen. And I've been getting a little information from here, a little information from there. But then, like with yours, you putting the blueprint down right on the screen. So I done got the concept from you, and like I said, I've been testing the waters, and it seemed like it'll work. So I'm going with the dispatcher for now. But I got plans on moving on. And, like I said, probably brokering, then probably getting some assets, or whatever. But you just gave me some more ideas that I ain't know nothing about. So basically, I'm just gonna start with this dispatcher thing. I done peeped from you where basically, you just try to run that triangle where you keep them loaded consistently. And I was like, you laid it out. To me, it ain't hard from what I've seen. And by me talking to shippers and stuff, I was like, Well, I was under the impression that, maybe I can get loads straight from the shipper without even going through the broker. You just confirmed that. So basically, I'm going to test this dispatcher thing out for real.
Yeah. It's very possible as a dispatcher to get loads from directly from, because if you're representing, it's like the carrier going directly to the shipper and getting loads outside of the broker. It's the same thing. The only thing is you're just stepping in and representing the carrier as the dispatcher, or we say fleet manager or operations manager or whatever. It's the same thing. You're just playing a different role,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. Now you say you were sending me a link. Would you say you sent it through the email?
Yeah, I just sent the email just now, so it should have. Just let me know if you got it.
Okay, which email you sent? I'm looking at both, and I don't see which one you sent it to.
I sent it to Quantum Leapers. Is coming from Exodus Logistics.
Okay, let me look at. I don't see none. Let me go to spam, see if it's down there.
Yeah, cause I sent it to my Exodus. Let me double check my draft real quick. In my sent folder. Quantum Leapers 22.
Okay, I got it. It's right here now. I just seen it. Just came in there.
All right.
Alright, it's time to be safe, man. Alright. Well, then.
All right. And I see we got area code 864 on here too. Who is that? Area code 864.
Probably right out here with no clothes on. Kids kill me. Actually, we still run around like that.
Get it, Mike?
I got the link, but then I went in. It's telling me, to put the login and password.
Right. So the login is the username, which is the login, is the email that I sent you. You see in the email where it says username is and password is.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back to that. Okay, I see it. It's up under it. I didn't ever see that.
Right. Yeah.
I got you on that. Yeah, I see that.
Okay, I'm gonna mute you for a second. Go ahead and log in and if you log in.
Yeah, definitely.
Type yes if you logged in. Type no if not, and we'll come back to it and get it straight. Area code 864. Trying to see who 864 is. And let me dial 864. Is that 554-2102? I'm calling 864. Let me unmute Mike. All right, Mike, how's it going?
Well, I was just writing down. I ain't even go into it, y'all. I was writing down the password and stuff.
Okay, good. So you got that entrepreneurial mindset. You ready to blow up right now?
Well, you know everything is baby steps. You know how it go, man.
Now you in Maryland, but you sound like your accent sound like you from up top somewhere.
Oh, come on, man! Don't even go there. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I've been hearing that the last few years about my accent. Yeah.
Where you at, man? What borough? Which one?
And you even know I'm in the borough, Brooklyn, man.
Okay, BK. All right.
Yeah, I'll be trying to get away from everybody. Tell me about the accent thing. I'll be like, man, I don't got no accent. But you do.
You out there with Jay-Z and them out there with Marcy.
Yeah, exactly. Lived there once in my lifetime.
Yeah, man. It's all right. It's all right where you from. You from where you from. You can't change that, right?
Nah, definitely. But you know, I got a different mind state. You know, sometimes you get a little biasness with the New York thing. So, you know, basically, yeah, you from where you from. You can't help that. But you know, like
exactly.
you said, I got a plan here, man, and I've been looking at you, and yeah, I'm ready to jump in this for real.
So now the first baby step is to master the dispatching side, where it's like second nature, basically like riding a bike. You know, you understand completely. You know, you understand the task of getting the drivers rolling on a consistent basis, ultimately up to and including a dedicated lane, and then once you do that, and then you just duplicate that. You do it with one carrier, and then you just duplicate that. I've been telling people to do it like that. So say you're good at finding dry van carriers, and you find loads for dry van carriers better than you do for reefer and flatbeds. So if that's the case, then you stick with what works, right? You just continue to find the loads for the dry van carrier. You keep that one carrier moving, and then you say, okay, well, this person's moving consistently, so let me scale up. Let me add another truck. What other truck would I add? Well, yeah, so obviously, if I'm going to add another truck, I'm going to add it for the same equipment type that's working for me now. So I'm going to add another dry van truck if I'm going to scale up. And also, too, I'm going to put it in the same lane as the lane that I got my first truck in, because that seemed to be working, right? So you just duplicate that. So now you got 2 trucks, 3 trucks. And then at 3 trucks, you're maintaining $600 a week for one truck. That means you're finding them $6,000. So if you're doing 10% dispatching, that means you're finding them anywhere from up to about $6,000 a week dispatching for one truck. At 10%, that's $600 a week for you. If you do that with 3 trucks, that's $1,800 a week for you. That's 3 trucks. And that's just 3 trucks, right? Maintaining.
Check it. You, like I said, you put the blueprint down, you know, and I ain't too bad with numbers, man. That's how I see, this looks feasible, man. I've been watching your videos, and you giving up a lot of knowledge here, man. You show us how to do it.
I'm trying my best, man.
No, I'm gonna be honest with you, son. Real talk, you are one of the best ones out here on the platform. I don't look at Dennis Brown. I don't look at Scott Wood, and they trying to rip your sleeve. Oh, just $800. Real talk. And then all they giving you is a video. I ain't gonna hold you out. Look, man, I'm exploring. I done jumped into one of them, and I'm like, man, I done learned way more from you than this other dude. So that's what made me switch up.
Yeah.
So
do they call brokers? Do they call carriers and talk to them?
Listen to me. You're the best one here right now. Like I said, it ain't just me talking. I done paid for these other jump offs, and I hear people on your platform talking about how they was at.
You call them jump offs.
My bad, bro. I didn't mean to do all
that. No, you good.
But I see people talking about the RBBS, whatever, right? Now
right.
I didn't know you was affiliated with them.
I'm no longer. I'm no
I
longer.
know now, yeah, I heard you, but I didn't never know that until a few videos ago when I heard you talking about it. But I done explored that one too, and I think his prices is the worst. And I see people on your platform talking about how they done paid over there, but they learning everything from you, and I'm like, yeah, man, there's a lot of hoaxes over here, and I done paid before, and I got basically nothing from it. You're the best platform I see out here.
Yeah.
You put the blueprint out where everybody can see it. And when I first seen you do it, I was like, man, that looks simple. And I heard a couple people that was in the chat, they was asking questions. I was like, man, he just laid it out. What part, you just like, you didn't see it? And then when you did it, I went and did it later on that day. So I was like, yeah, like I said, man, you put the blueprint out on the screen, it ain't hard. So I feel like your platform is more valuable. I don't learn more from you than I don't learn any other place.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, I used to be affiliated with the other platform. We've since severed ties, I guess you would say.
Yeah, people said that.
Yeah. But that scaling part is, but that's true in any type of business. You get one thing down, and then when you want to scale up, you just duplicate that same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and then if you're maintaining 3, and then you want to venture off to another equipment type, so say you got 3 dry vans and you're maintaining them consistently to the point where it's like automated, you don't even need to. You got them under loads all the time, and they're running pretty consistently on dedicated lanes. And you might say, okay, well, I got 3 trucks, I'm good. They're bringing me revenue in. Let me try a reefer or a flatbed. So now you go into the market, and now you start to build your skill set up with the different equipment types, the flatbed or the reefer, like you did with the dry van. And so eventually you might want to get, and I like to use 3 as my favorite number. So maybe you want to have 3 dry vans, 3 flatbeds, and 3 reefers. So now you got 9 trucks you dispatching for consistently, and you're doing it with direct shippers because you're not even dealing with brokers. So you're gonna make a killing.
That's my plan, man. Like I said, you put the blueprint down. I've been listening to you, and I just started calling shippers, and I was like seeing if this can work. And I was like, yeah, okay. Well, you can run a carrier straight with the shipper. I was like, okay, and probably a lot of them would appreciate that more because that cut that the freight broker taking out, that's more bread for them. So I was like, yeah, I see right there. That'll like try to be my niche. Go straight to the shipper will get them more money. And like you said, I'm running them consistently where I can make this, my livelihood. Because I plan on just leaving my job. Everybody think I'm crazy. Oh, you're just going to leave $50,000 a year. Yo, look, dog, I got big plans, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm better working for myself. I always felt like that.
Yeah, we all are. Yep. Because that's what I did. After 90 days, I left too. So, but yeah, you want to get to a place where you're making just as much, if not a little more, than you are at your 9 to 5, and that's where, at that point, you make the decision to leave, right?
That's exactly why I say, yo, I haven't jumped into it yet, because I was like, when I jump into it, I got to be down, and when I go, like I'm planning on using December to line up a couple carriers, but I'm gonna jump into it. By Christmas, I plan on done with my job, and it's gonna be my job. But
yeah.
my thing is though, like I said, I got a little bit of plans. I already have a license, but I have no experience. Right. So I was even thinking, like, I got Swift and Prime and all, they all been harassing me also trying to get me to come. But like I'm like, yeah, I'm planning on doing that too. I want to test the waters on how to run a truck because I plan on buying one. You know what I'm saying? And I see that there's a little things to it with the miles per gallon, how to really, I can drive it, but I don't really know how to run it. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I plan on jumping that also.
Right. And you may or may not have to actually run the truck to understand how that part of the business works. You don't even have to have a CDL as long as you understand how to calculate the cost of fuel on a particular load. Like say, for example, you have a load that's paying $2,400, right? And it's going 1,000 miles. So right now, as long as there's a certain formula that always works, if you can just figure out, you know, right now the average, you get 6 miles to the gallon for the trucks these days. It used to be 5 miles to the gallon. I think it's 6 miles to the gallon now. So what you do is you take and divide the number of miles that particular load is traveling by the miles per gallon. So let's say you're going 1,000 miles, right? I got my calculator up if you can see my screen. So if you got a load,
let me go back to your screen because I didn't even get to tell you the truck stop I missed. But let me go back to your screen and see you.
Okay.
Okay, let's close the message. Alright. Okay, I see you said 1,000. Now check it. I see you with a few videos ago where you did this, and I was like, oh, you can even, you know, estimate how much that fuel gonna cost, and all that goes in with, you know, is this load worth taking or not? I peeped that. You know, like I said, dog, you don't put the blueprint there. But show me this again, because you know, I want to get this down pat.
Okay, so let's say you got a load, you're talking to a broker, and it's a dry van load. It's going from A to B. It's 1,000 miles, and it's paying $2,400, right? So remember that number, $2,400. So I'm gonna write it down on a sheet of paper. But you want to calculate how much is going to be in fuel. So it's going 1,000 miles. So you divide that by 6 miles to the gallon. So 6 miles to the gallon. So it's going to take you 167 gallons of fuel to run that load. That's what that means, right?
Right. You said divide 1,000 by 6 miles per gallon.
Yeah, so basically,
come up with 166.
Right. So 166, or if you round up, it's going to be 167 gallons to run that 1,000 mile load. Right. So that's only half the equation. So now you take that 167 gallons and you multiply that times the price per gallon of fuel out here today. So it's about, let's say fuel costs $3 to $3.25 a gallon, right? So let's just keep it nice, even. Let's say diesel fuel costs $3 a gallon, right? So you take 167 times 3. So it's going to cost you $500 in fuel to run a 1,000 mile load. So you're paying so remember the load paid $2,400, right? So 500 of that $2,400 is going to fuel. So you take out the 500, you're going to have $1,900 left over. So now, if you are a trucking company, you got to pay your driver a certain amount. You got to factor in other things, and this is just one load. But if you are just dispatching for the carrier, let's look at it from the perspective of dispatching for the carrier. You still going to charge the carrier 10% of the original rate of that load. So 224 by 10%. So you're getting what? 240, right?
Correct.
So of 2,400, you took out 500 for the fuel. So that's 1,900. So now you got to take out 240 to pay your dispatcher. So here's what the carrier is getting. 16. This is what the carrier really going to get, because you got to pay you for finding that $2,400 load, and then you got to pay for fuel to run that load, $500. So he's making $1,660. So now if you divide that by the number of miles the load was under 1,000, he's actually making $1.66 really off
a mile.
$1.66 per. But most people would think because it's $2,400 total divided by 1,000 miles, they think they're getting 240 miles.
Yeah, but see, like I think you laid the blueprint down. That's the reason why you call and try to negotiate it higher. So when he's getting more than that $1.66 a mile, correct?
Correct. So what you would do is, as a dispatcher, because if you know this going in, what the rate is going to be, the loads cents per mile, miles per gallon, so you can factor out how many miles a load is running divided by the miles per gallon, and then times the rate per gallon for diesel. You can figure out how much it's going to cost fuel. So now, if you go back to the broker or shipper and negotiate a higher rate, let's say you got it from 2,400 to, let's say you got 3,000 for that load instead of 2,400. So now your numbers are going to be higher, right? So let's do this. Let me mute real quick.
Just to spend money, Adrian. It's just to spend money. So she don't want to go shopping no more. We go shopping, she don't want to go.
Oh, that's some background noise. That must be you in the background. It's got some background noise.
No, that's me. My bad.
Hey, Bala.
So let's say we negotiated an extra $600 and we brought the load up from 2,400, Mike, to 3,000.
Right.
So now you still get now you get 10% of 3,000, which is what, 300, right?
Yeah.
But it's still $1,000 to run it. I mean, 1,000 miles to run it. It's still 6 miles per gallon. So it's still going to cost $500 to pay for fuel. So now you just take 500 from the 3,000. So now it's 2,500, right? 2,500, and you still taking out your 10%, which is now 300. So now it's 2,200. So now you divide, right? So you divide that by the total miles, and now it's $2.20 a mile as opposed to $1.66 a mile. So just by you negotiating the extra $600, you brought that real true cents per mile up for your carrier from $1.66 to $2.20. So you just added an extra 54 cents a mile to your carrier by negotiating an extra $600 in pay.
And doing things like that is more likely for them to stay with you and keep running.
There you go. And not only doing it like that, but if you can actually explain it and show it to your carrier where they can see that you understand their numbers, they're more than likely to stay with you. And you may have a carrier.
You said that. Correct.
Yeah. You may have a carrier who may not even know their own numbers, and you show them that, they're gonna hound you like those other two were you were talking about earlier. So yeah.
Basically, yeah, you done put the blueprint down for that. Like I said, man, you done put it all out there, truthfully.
So we can take any. Let's do an example. We can take any. Let's go on the load board. We can take any load. We can make up a load, and we can figure out what the cents per mile and all the other stuff is going to be for a carrier, and then explain that to the carrier when we're trying to get them under a dispatch agreement. And they see that, they'll be like, oh yeah, he knows his stuff. Let me go with him because he seems to know what he's doing. He knows my number. He knows what to negotiate. Plus the fact, if you know what the market rate for a particular lane pays, when you're talking to the broker and they're below market, you can negotiate that that process too. So let's say Baltimore, right? Because you were in Baltimore area, correct?
Right.
Okay, so let's say Baltimore, Maryland, and we started with dry vans, right? With the dry van, and we're just going to leave destination blank, and we're going to hit search. Come up with some loads. We got 822 total loads going from Baltimore with a dry van for anywhere. 822. Right? So I'm going to hit the rate. Like that. Right? So there's some background noise, and I don't know who it is. Oh, I think it's you.
I'm trying to see that background noise now for real.
Okay, so now we got. Let's just pick one. Here's a high number one. Look, 5,500. If you can see my screen, it's only 20 foot. It's in a dry van. $5,500. Only 2,000 pounds. That's a light load. You can put this in a box truck.
Yo, real talk. I had one of them harassing me also. Box
Yeah.
truck also.
Yeah, because look, it's a box truck is the longest a box truck is 26 feet, and the most weight they can handle is about 9,000, 10,000 pounds. Well, here's a load right here, 20 feet, only 2,000 pounds, and it's paying 5,500 going 2,046 miles. So let's do the raw cents per mile. I call it the raw cents per mile because I'm just calculating it without factoring in fuel and anything like that, right? So let's 5,500 divided by the miles, 2046, right? So that's $2.69 a mile, just raw. Raw, we didn't do fuel. So now let's do our fuel calculation. Remember, it's going 2046. So we're going to say we're going to take that total miles, 2046, and divide it by, remember, 6, right? Because you get 6 miles to the gallon, right?
Right.
So it's going to take 341 gallons of fuel to cover this load. So let's multiply this by the cost of diesel. We said $3. Let's just say, for example, the price of diesel today, right now, is $3 a gallon. So we'll multiply it by 3. So it's going to cost $1,023 of fuel to cover this. So now we're going to take that 1,000 and deduct it from the 5,500.
Correct.
Right. So you take 55 and minus 1,023 equals that. Now you take your 10% and subtract it from this too, right? So 10% of 55 is
555. I mean 550. My bad. Yeah.
So now you take 550. So now you got 39.27, and now you divide that by the total miles, and that's the true cents per mile. And you can plug this into any numbers for any load. So now this load is actually paying $1.92, almost $2 a mile. It's still good, even after covering your fuel and your dispatcher for finding this load. You're going to get $1.92. So now you can do that with any load, that's how you do it.
Right.
So we could go. I mean, we could choose another one that we think, like this one here, going from Jersey to Vermont. This first one was Harrisburg, which we was in Baltimore. So Harrisburg is like 67 mile deadhead going to Salt Lake City. A driver may see that large number, like that's a big number. But going over to the West Coast, you got to go through those Rocky Mountains and all this other stuff. So you're burning more fuel. So, but if he stays local, he can find one going to like from Jersey to Vermont, 42,000 pounds, 448 miles. So you take this one that's highlighted red. Let's do the raw. Let's first do our raw cents per mile and then see what the difference is. Now remember, the first example, the raw cents per mile was what, $2.69. But now, after covering fuel and the dispatcher cost, it's $1.91. So let's do this one. Let's do the raw cents per mile, 1580 divided by the mileage, 448, right? So that's $3.52. That's 53 cents. That's huge.
Correct.
Right? It's a light run. Chop Tank, they pay pretty well. Chop Tank brokerage. So, but we haven't factored in our fuel costs and paying our dispatcher. So let's do that. So the fuel cost. So we're going to take. How do we figure that out? Remember, the miles, the total miles, 448. Divided by whatever the miles per gallon is, 6 miles to the gallon, which in this case, 6. So it's going to take us 75 gallons of fuel to get there. So let's take 75 times 3. Let's say this cost of fuel is $3 a gallon. I'm just using nice round numbers here, right? So it's going to cost you $225 of fuel to get to 448 miles to cover this load. So you're going to take $225 and subtract that from the 1580, right? So that's 1355. You're also going to subtract your 10% of the original to cover the dispatcher fee. So 10% of 1580 is what? 158.
Exactly.
So you're going to subtract 158. So now so now that's your rate. That's your rate after fuel and dispatcher. So now you divide that by the total miles for 48, and it's still not bad. $2.67. You covered your dispatcher and your fuel, which is the number one thing, and you're making $2.67. So that's still a load like that is still attractive.
Right.
But that's how you figure out, and that's the secret right there as far as, and you can leverage your knowledge of this concept right here when you're talking to carriers. Trying to convince them to go with you as a dispatcher because you have the knowledge of their business. And again, the carriers themselves may not even know this. They don't know how to. They could be hustling backwards. They don't even know how they could be wasting money on fuel. Don't even realize it. But if you show them, so the thing that you need to know is what's the miles per gallon out there for the truck? What does a tractor get these days for miles per gallon? You need to know that consistently, whether it's $5 to the gallon. 5 miles to the gallon or 6 miles to the gallon, whatever that is. You write that down, and then you need to know what is the market or the average cost for diesel fuel per gallon out there. Depending on that varies because depending on what state it could be $3 in one state and $3.25 in another state. Like on the East Coast, Northeast, New York, it might be higher, and then going down the South, it might be less. Or so that varies.
Yeah, it varies. Yeah.
But if you take an average,
I don't want to cut you off. I got a question now that you're talking about this. How does the fuel surcharge work with the broker? What's that about?
Sometimes the fuel surcharge is included in the rate. So let's go into one example. Sometimes the fuel surcharge is included in this rate. Sometimes it is not. The only way you're going to know that is when you get the rate confirmation. It's going to have the load, what the load is paying to the truck, and add it on top of that with the fuel surcharge. So when you're talking to the broker, that's a question you ask them. Is fuel surcharge included in the rate? Mm-hmm. If they say no, then you negotiate the fuel surcharge.
Okay. All right. Now, how much? How do I know how much? The percentage I'm supposed to negotiate the surcharge rate on?
It's a small percentage. It's usually like anywhere between 25 to 50 cents on top of what the rate that's going to the truck pays. So let's go into let me give you an example. I'm going to go into what's called a TMS system, Ascend, and I'm going to put that same lane, this Baltimore to anywhere for a drive-in, and see what we get and see what the fuel surcharge is for it. So to give you an idea of what that looks like.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you.
So, but do you understand that whole concept of figuring it out now?
Oh, listen, I peeped it a couple videos ago. But yeah, you just explained it thoroughly now. And yeah, and I noticed by you understanding that's a good sales pitch also to the carrier. Where, like you said, he know that you understand what it's taking to move this truck and what sounds feasible to him or not. You know what I mean?
Right. So let's go into the rates. Right. Let's see Insta rate. So let's do our lookup again. Baltimore, Maryland to anywhere. We'll leave that blank for a drive-in. So this also tells you what the national averages is, so you can go in here and compare. So let's get the rates and see.
You must have not been good on the interview.
Now, I done played around with this rate calculator a few times, right? But most of the time, it seemed like the numbers for the gallons of the diesel is not accurate.
So what do you be getting?
Okay, now I see diesel like on the highway. It'd be like 379, 389, and I done played around on this rate calculator here at 123 load board, and it be coming up diesel $3.08 a gallon. I'd be like, man, that's not correct. So what's up with this rate calculator?
Yeah, see, it varies based off of the state that you're in. I don't know why my sin is not working. I don't get it. What's going on?
They not to be on that bus. They send messages on the bus.
Yeah, it varies. It varies for the state. The cost of, which is strange. It should be a one uniform number, but
he has to be able to get the CDI prices. That's a whole other test.
I'm supposed to be getting. Let me log out of here and log back in. See why this is not working.
Yeah, but he has to still remember that test is 100 and something questions. He still remember all that shit. So first off, you got to learn how you doing, and you got time to sit there and read it to him. I just don't.
Okay.
And I
Baltimore. Drive that.
Somebody still got to give him the information. Who's going to give it to him?
Let's say Baltimore to Atlanta.
I ain't got time to sit here. Yeah, and I don't have.
Okay, so let's just. I guess we can't leave it blank. So Baltimore to Atlanta. So here's where fuel surcharge come in.
I ain't signing up.
Okay. Let me see. I got some background noise.
It's just sorry.
Is that you? That's still you, the background noise?
That's my background noise. I can't quiet it down back there. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so here I just picked an example. Like you got a line haul rate, and then the fuel surcharge is added to the line haul rate. So the line haul rate is $1.28 for this example, going from Baltimore to Atlanta, and the fuel surcharge is 39 cents. So what that means is added together, the total cents per mile for this particular lane is $1.67 per mile. You add these two together.
Okay.
$1.67, $1.68. So it gives you the low-end line haul, it gives you the high-end, it gives you the low-end fuel surcharge, it gives you the high-end, and you add those two together. That gives you the total cents per mile. The total cents per mile is made up of the line haul rate plus the fuel surcharge. Some brokers do not include the fuel surcharge. Some of them do. You were asked about that if you feel that the total cents per mile rate is lower than what the average rate per mile is paying for that particular lane. So.
Okay, I got you on that. Now my question on that is, right, so with the fuel surcharge rate, the broker is the one who's throwing that in, and the broker get that from the shipper? Or, the broker just...
Yeah. The broker's calculating all that in based off of the target rate that they get for the load from the shipper minus their percentage that they're taking off the top. So they're presenting what's left over to you, or to your carrier, I should say.
Okay.
Yep. So let's go to our trusted friend Google and get what is the meaning of what is the fuel surcharge calculation. So it's an extra fee that trucking companies or third parties charge to cover fluctuating costs of fuel. It is calculated as a percentage of the base rate and is usually added to the shipper's freight bill to cover the cost of operation. So in this example, this 39 cents fuel surcharge will be added to help the carrier cover their cost of the fuel to cover their costs. So it'll be a way for the carrier to get their money back. That $500, or whatever that amount was in that example that we calculated for fuel.
Right.
If you got a fuel surcharge, let's say 39 cents, you multiply that by the total miles of that particular load. In this case, 684. So you're getting back $266 to help you cover the fuel surcharge, the fuel. So it's added into the total rate of that load, your fuel. So it kind of offsets what you were going to pay as a carrier for the fuel. It kind of offsets that.
Okay, I got it.
So if there was not a fuel surcharge included in the rate, then the carrier is going to pay for all the fuel themselves. If there is a fuel surcharge included in the rate, like in this example, then that amount helps offset what the carrier would have paid for the fuel.
And the temperature's going to...
Got you.
All right?
Yeah.
All right, so if we know that, that'll put us at an advantage. So we can, like I said, we can take any number. I'm gonna log out of this. You can take any numbers and calculate you can easily calculate your percentage at the dispatcher because it's just 10%. But to figure out how to calculate the fuel cost, you need to know miles per gallon and the cost per mile, the cost per gallon for the fuel, for the diesel. And then you could easily, and then the total miles of that particular load, and you can go from there and figure that out. So, but there you go. Any other questions?
Nah.
Any other questions from anybody? Hey, what's up, Robert?
Hey, what's up, Doc? How you doing?
I'm okay. How was your Thanksgiving?
Working.
Oh.
I'm a workaholic, Doc.
I see. Jeez.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. On my way to take my son back to college now.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, we were just calculating. We were plugging in any load and then calculating how much it would be for fuel for the carrier, and then minus our 10% in this case, as an example, dispatching fee, and then what the truck really gets, minus the fuel and minus the rate to the dispatcher, and what the true cents per mile would be.
Correct.
So if a carrier sees that the dispatcher is educated in that, because some carriers may not even know how to figure all that out. They're just taking loads and just running and say, okay, I got to pay for this, and pay for that. So, but if you have dispatchers who are knowledgeable of that whole concept, then it'll look more attractive to the carriers to say, okay, I got a dispatcher who know what they're doing. They can keep me running. So let's go ahead and do this dispatcher agreement and go from there.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I think next training I may even do a call, and while I'm talking to the carrier, I may even get into that whole spiel of like, okay, yeah, let's look at the load for you. Let's see what your fuel cost is going to be. Let's see, and then I'll ask them to give me live. What's the going miles per gallon out here? Is it 6 miles to the gallon for a tank? Or is it 5 miles to the gallon? He'll give me that number, he or she. And then we got a particular load. Okay, what's the total miles? What's the going cost of fuel per gallon out here now? Is it $3? Is it $3.25? Depending on where you are. And we do that live so everybody can see that, and then see that the carrier who I'm potentially trying to get under a dispatch agreement sees that the dispatcher or the fleet manager or the operations manager, whatever term you want to use, knows what they're talking about.
Right. The national average is about
I didn't hear the last part.
The person has, if they got one of them brand spanking new trucks, them high dollar, high end trucks, or they got a nice, used truck, that doesn't cost that much,
So what did you say the national average was? You kind of cut off when you was mentioning it.
Yeah, it's about $1.85
per mile.
You got it? You hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it's about $1.85. Because once you take your fuel costs out and everything else, drive for the make, they may say $2, but in reality, it could be $1.80. In reality, enough to have profit. But sometimes, they don't know, and then we need to make sure we educate ourselves on that. So we go to the carrier we explain this to them and everything, so, to see what their numbers are. Because you got to put in everything.
Right, so, yeah, so you ask the carrier.
Yep.
You ask them, what's your least amount of cents per mile? What's your break-even point, and what's profit after that? They may say, I can't make no less than $1.50 a mile. And that's after fuel, at least after fuel. And if I pay you 10%, so after all that, I got to make at least $1.50 a mile. So if you show them on a load that you can calculate minus the fuel and minus your 10% or whatever your percentage is, and they're making $1.70, $1.80, that's 30 cents more than what they wanted. So that's profit for them. So.
Yep.
So it's good to know that. Always. So I was talking to Mike, he's on the call, and he was, we was just breaking down different loads and trying to get a clearer understanding. Let me put Mike back on. 1 second, Robert. Mike, you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I muted it, Charles. I got some background noise going on, so I muted myself.
Are you good now? I don't hear nothing.
Okay. For now.
Yeah, so remember what? So we kind of. So after doing a couple of examples, we kind of got that down though now, right? We can pretty much got the whole, and that's all it's about. It's about conceptualizing all these concepts. You can plug in any number as long as you got the concept. You can plug the information in all day, right?
Right.
And then also too now, when you want to scale, the concept of scaling your dispatching business is taking that one carrier that you started off with, their equipment type, and duplicating that. So if you start off with a drive-in, you finding them 3 loads a week, or how many loads that you feel comfortable that you could do that, where it's automating itself, duplicating itself. You just take and add another drive-in carrier, even put them in the same lane as the shipper, like in your case, has. So I think you got it though. You got it. You just gotta get to a place where, like you said in December, where you wanna go all in and do it 100%.
Correct.
So.
But the truth of the matter is, you done told it. I done watched a couple videos and basically, you done put the blueprint down. It doesn't look too hard. Now, like I said, I jumped out and tested the water. It looked like it's doable. Definitely.
Right.
But I got bigger plans though.
Yeah, I want to be a part of those bigger plans. You sound like you scaring me, man.
Nah, man, you know how I go, man. I see his money in this. That's what I see.
Oh yeah, it's a $700 billion. Bless you, $700 billion a year industry just on the trucking side.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Hey, also we got to see relationship. Just can't see money. We got to see relationship. Relationships will bring you money.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Mike understands that very well. Very well. But 700 billion, just the trucking side alone, 1.2 trillion overall transportation as far as air freight, rail, sea, things like that. But the trucking side on the land, along with just the 18-wheelers and the ports, it's 700 billion. I think it's went up a little bit. So if I get 1/2 of 1% of that 700 billion, now not million, billion. So if you get 1/2 of 1%, you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Just a small. If you get like 3, say you get a fleet, say you start a dispatching business, and you just got 3 carriers, and you're running them 3 loads a week for, you're averaging, let's say the low end, you're averaging $6,000 a week per carrier. $6,000, which is not hard. You can find 3 loads a week that pays $2,000, or you can find 2 loads a week that pays $3,000. It's going to average to $6,000, right? You're going to get $600 if you're charging 10%. So $600 a week per carrier times 3 carriers, that's $1,800 a week for you, the dispatcher, maintaining 3 loads, 3 carriers at 3 loads a week. right? So let's do the numbers on that. So we're all today's lesson is numbers, right? So 1,800 at 3, so 1,800 a week. This is gross. These are gross numbers, right? So what's that? 4 weeks in a month, and then 12 months in a year. So this is a gross number. So that's 3 carriers. So that's 3 carriers, right? So let's say you add another carrier. So how many carriers starting out in your first year you think a person can handle? 4, 5 carriers to run a legitimate dispatching business? That's pretty small, right?
To be honest with you, if you I see this, if you commit your time to it and you really have the knowledge, how you said with the percentage of the mileage, you know, the rates and everything, I think you can get 20 carriers in a year easily.
Okay, so I'm saying, when I say that now, I'm saying maintain and keeping them running consistently. So you're saying 20. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that's true. So let's say 20 carriers, and each of them you're bringing them 600. You're bringing in 600 a week for 20 carriers. So that's 12,000 a week.
Within a year. I didn't say start now. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm thinking small, like you said, with the 3. You starting out with at least 3. Where you're getting $1,800, like, you know, a week, somewhere you can live on, and then you're building up more experience. You're getting better as time goes on. I'm saying within that first year, once you got it down pat, yeah, then you could probably, like, you're going to have 20 carries within that year. Once you done start doing it, and you got good with it, and you're getting better.
Right. So let's say
now you got no 20 carries. No.
Okay, so let's cut that in half. Let's say first starting out, you can maintain for the first 6 months 5 carriers. That's realistic. That's realistic. 5 carriers that you can maintain a week running loads, especially if they're the same equipment types and you're running them under the same lanes for the same shipper. You're not even using a broker. Let's say you're using the shipper like you might, that you got the relationships with the shipper. You seem to got that down pat. So that skill set. So 5 carriers, and you're only averaging a minimum of 6,000 a week, so you're getting 10%, so 600. So that's $3,000 a week for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 12 a month. So that's going to be 144 a year, gross, for 5 trucks. And you're going to automate that, because if you're putting them under, well, let me say this. Let me take that back. You're going to progress and slowly build up to the point where you're automating those 5, because you want to move them gradually into what's called dedicated lanes. When they get into the dedicated lanes, now you don't have to worry about where their next load is, because they're going to always have that load because they're dedicated. Now you may have to worry about backhaul to get them back to the money load. You may have to just I don't want to say take a loss, but take a less of a load to cover fuel, just to cover fuel to get back to the money load, the dedicated load, the line,
exactly.
Right, to get back to the hot spot, to the line haul. So you have line haul and you have head haul or back haul. So your back haul, you may have to broker back to the line haul, which is fine. So this 144 is just line haul. It doesn't even include back haul. It's just going out. So it could be more. Let's say it's 150, but it could be more. But that's 5 carriers. You're maintaining them on dedicated lanes, so you don't even have to worry about finding the load. So this could potentially, I mean, once you build up to it, 6 months to a year, it could potentially be residual income, because you always know where your carriers are. When you get to that point, the only thing that you're going to have to worry about is the maintenance and upkeep of your carrier's truck. And as a matter of fact, that's the carrier's responsibility, because he's an owner-operator, so it's his business, it's his truck. So it's his responsibility to maintain that truck in such a way that it'll keep him running in that dedicated lane. So if I were you, even though I'm running 5 trucks consistently, I would have at least 1 to 2 other trucks in the background waiting, because maybe one of those trucks might break down. One of your 5 money guys might break down. So you put a substitute into that lane, so you keep your averages still at 144. You see how that works now? So now you're thinking entrepreneurial. You're thinking of, you know what I'm saying? So, but that's the thought. But you build up to that 1 carrier at a time. You know?
Exactly.
So you know what you're doing, man. I'm gonna have to work with you, man. We got to partner up.
Maybe.
But yeah, but that's so $144,000 a year. That's gross. So you didn't factor in taxes and all your expenses, but you get as a business person, you get to write off a lot of stuff. So you lower your taxable income. So say you wrote off about $40,000 in taxes because you were a business owner. So you wrote off a lot of things. So you wrote off $40,000 in taxes. So you don't have to pay $40,000. So now that puts you in a different tax bracket. And say income taxes for this tax bracket was 19%, which sounds about right. So times 19%. So of 104,000, you're paying about 19,000 in taxes, about 20 grand in taxes. So you wrote off 40,000, so you didn't even get taxed on 40,000. Don't forget about that, right? So you take the 20,000. So basically 144,000. Minus the 19, or let's just say 20,000 in taxes. So that's really what you're bringing in after your taxes, 124. So for 5 trucks, and you're a business. So, and then you might think about scaling later on, adding a team. You might bring a person in as a team, and you might train them to run about 2 to 3 trucks. So you're adding 3 more trucks to your 5 trucks. So that's 8 trucks. And you're getting them a percentage to run. First, you're going to teach them what you're doing to get them up to the level that they can maintain those 3 trucks consistently, like you're doing for the 5 trucks consistently. You know, you don't want to bring somebody on and they're creating a deficit for you. You want to create a surplus. So
absolutely.
So yeah. So maybe after running the 5 trucks yourself for like maybe a year or 2, and you got that pretty automated, then you might consider, okay, I want to scale my business. I want to bring on about maybe 2, 3 more trucks tops. I need to bring someone else because I feel I can't handle all that, and keep the same level of customer service and the same level of commitment to my carriers like I did when I had the 5. So I want to bring in a helper, train them with 2 to 3. So that's how you scale. This is business. This is the mindset. You know the entrepreneurship. That's how you think about it. So,
right.
But again, 1 truck at a time, 1 niche. Like you may have a niche. Your niche may be drive-ins, and then your niche for the contracts or the loads may be direct shippers instead of the brokers, which I highly recommend you get to that point, because with the brokers you're dealing with a lot of snakes who try to take more money off the top, and you gotta stress yourself about negotiating a rate up to get the right amount. With the shipper, all that nonsense is out of the picture, because you're getting the target rate directly from the shipper, as opposed to getting from the broker a target rate minus the broker's cut off the top. So if you deal directly with the shipper, you don't have to worry about that minus the broker part off the top portion. You get the whole target rate.
Right.
So, but I like the entrepreneurial. Okay, someone made a comment here. Let me see what somebody said here. Oh, good afternoon, Yusuf. How you doing? Yusuf, did you have a question? Go ahead. Unmute yourself, Yusuf. What's your question? Okay, Yusuf.
Hello, Charles.
Yes. Yep. How are you?
Charles, my question is this: what kind of contract do you go in with the shipper if you are going directly with them, and how do you protect yourself from the carrier going directly to them and cutting you off? How does that work?
If you, I'll let Mike kind of answer that too. But if you can get direct shipper contracts, then you would. If I were you, I would restructure my dispatcher agreement to include some kind of protection clause for an event like that. If a carrier decides to go behind your back and try to deal with the direct shippers themselves. But if your carrier sees that you are providing them direct shipper loads, chances are if you got a good carrier, they're going to stick with you. Only those deceitful type of carriers will try to do that. So you still want to protect yourself and include some kind of protection clause in this shipper this type of dispatcher agreement, not the standard dispatch agreement, but you want to restructure your dispatcher agreement to protect yourself in cases like that? That's a very good question. In cases like that, so you want to, if you're going to deal with direct shippers, then you want to restructure your dispatcher agreement for the carriers when dealing with them. Whether
I have another question.
Yep.
Like insurance, if you have a corporation, you have your like error and omission insurance. You can buy like 1 million, 2 million. How can you structure your company where, God forbid, if there's a situation where the shipper sees you? I mean, I know brokers have their own bond and all that, but if you are just like a middleman working as a corporation or something, what is the best way to protect yourself from the shipper, God forbid something happens bad, and from the carrier? Or if they, let's say it's like a triangle, and if they break the agreement, let's say the shipper that cuts you off goes direct to the carrier, how can you build a triangle, like a protection for all three, where you can work like in a good way?
Right. Again, it goes back to restructuring your dispatcher agreement, and also get an attorney involved in that portion as far as the protection, as far as the insurance, and a good insurance company. I want to say progressive, but you always want to protect yourself and your business, especially your legal structure of your business, LLC, sole proprietor. But as far as protecting, like in cases where the shipper goes behind your back or the carrier goes behind your back and they deal directly with each other without you, then structure your contract with your carrier dealing with the direct shipper, and then structure your contract with your shipper dealing with you and the carrier. So you protect yourself on both sides. You mentioned a triangle, and that triangle includes you as the fleet manager. Don't say dispatcher, but you as the fleet manager / operations manager for whatever. So typically, if you want to be a fleet manager, or a dispatcher, or operations manager for the carrier, then the contract that you structure between you and the carrier should protect you, and there should be clauses in there that includes unethical acts, right, between the carrier and the shipper, or the shipper towards you, excluding you in deals with the carrier. So now it just depends on how you structure that agreement. Because when you deal directly with the shippers, you are still representing your carrier. It's not your company. You are representing the carrier. So the contract or the agreement that you have between you and the carrier, it should be structured in such a way that it protects you from unethical practices.
So the broker, like for example, like a broker, like a triangle where there's a shipper, there's a broker, then there's a carrier. So you can basically replace the broker as yourself. But the thing is that God forbid if something goes bad, the carrier goes after the broker because they have the bond and everything, and the shipper uses the authority or the MC of the carrier. So if something goes wrong, the shipper, am I correct? The shipper will go after the carrier's authority and insurance. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So
that is correct.
When you're making your legal structure, so you don't have to worry about that. If the trucker does something bad, they're gonna go after their authority. But there could be a case where they can go after you. I think it's better to have some kind of insurance, like an error and emission insurance, where you can protect yourself in some calamity where they're going after you, like a legal something. And my other question was the carrier side. Let's say the carrier goes after the broker if the broker does not pay. So how can you make another where, like, I really don't want to get my broker's license and all that. So how can I protect myself from that? Where carrier, let's say for example, hypothetically, we're talking about mileage. A carrier picks up a load and they want to go to California to Miami, and me quote them 1,500 miles. But God forbid there was like something happened, a highway's closed, where the trucker drove 200 miles extra. Now he wants his money. That's a lot of gas, fuel. So God forbid, let's say there should be no dispute, because you can ask the shipper, hey, he drove extra 200 miles, what can we do for him? And they say, no, we don't want to take care of him. Let's say you're a nice guy. You're like, you know what, I'll take care of you. What if you say, no, I'm not paying for that? Now that carrier can go after you. Am I correct?
No, he cannot. Because in the dispatcher agreement, the dispatcher is protected from any and all claims. If you go to your dispatcher agreement, and then if you are a good dispatcher, I wouldn't have a problem covering an extra 20 miles because it's not going to be that much in fuel. That's like $60 or whatever. It depends on how much it costs. Like if fuel is $3 a gallon, you're going 20 miles, you just 6 miles at a gallon, so that's what? That's like less than 20, 25, $30 for that. So to cover that small amount, to keep the relationship going with a good carrier as opposed to not covering it and lose that relationship with the carrier, you have to, those are some of the things you have to consider. But as far as the carrier going after you legally, in our dispatch agreement, we're protected from any and all claims. It even says so in the language of the dispatcher agreement. I don't know if you read over that portion where it says, because any and all claims, so if a carrier goes after a broker or if a broker goes after the carrier, in our dispatch agreement, our relationship is between the carrier and us, right? So once the carrier signs that dispatch agreement, that's a legal bound document. It's legally binding once he signs it. So in that dispatch agreement, let's go to one of our dispatch agreements, go to the website and look at our dispatch agreement under forms and documents. And dispatcher agreement. We log out of here before I do anything. So in the dispatch agreement, and you can go over this, you know, your carrier goes over this, but and if they have any questions, they'll ask you. But right here, this is where the dispatcher's name goes. So my name is here. So whatever dispatcher will be held harmless in the event in any and all claims. Now, what does that mean? So if there's claims filed against the carrier for like they were late, there was damage, the goods were damaged, the truck was damaged, or whatever, any claims filed against them by the broker or by the receiving facility that they delivered to. Say they delivered to a receiving facility and they were backing into a loading dock and damaged the loading dock somehow. There's going to be a claim filed against that carrier. That has nothing to do with the dispatcher. I'm just a dispatcher. I just found you the load, got you the Raycom, and booked that load for you. I had nothing to do with you bagging up into a loading dock. So any claims against the carrier does not reflect the dispatcher at all. And the reason why we put that in writing is to document that. Okay? So any and all claims, once they see that and they sign this, once you sign this as a carrier, this document is legally binding. Now, to add to that, you can notarize it too to make that official, but the signature is enough to say that because the judge is going to say, okay, well, did you read your agreement? And the carrier is going to say, yeah, okay, well, it says here on this particular line, this person's name here, whoever the dispatcher is, will be held harmless in the event of any and all claims. That one line right there removes you from any liability. As it should. This line doesn't even need to be there, but it's there for documentation purposes because your carrier picking up and delivering freight from a shipper to a receiver has nothing to do with you in the sense of physically doing it. It has everything to do with you as a dispatcher actually booking that load, but to actually physically, you're not in the truck with the carrier delivering that load. So you physically have nothing to do with the transport of that load. So as such, you are not responsible for anything that happens in that load while it's being transported. That's the carrier's liability. That's why the carrier have cargo, physical damage, and liability coverage on their certificate of insurance, not the dispatcher. The dispatcher don't need it because the dispatcher is not transporting that load. The carrier is. But that line here is still helpful to be there for protection purposes for the dispatcher and for documentation purposes and for legality purposes. So, and right here too, the dispatcher's name will be held harmless and no penalty or deduction of fees will be made. So in other words, if revenue for a shipment or shipments is uncollectible, in other words, if the broker does not want to pay the carrier is not going after the dispatcher, because the broker carrier agreement, that's what it is. It's a broker carrier agreement, and the broker produced the Raycom, and the broker is the one that's paying the carrier, not the dispatcher. So what carrier in his right mind would go after a dispatcher for revenue is beyond me. They're going after the broker and or shipper with whom they got the load from. So, but again, it's needed, it's protecting the dispatcher here. If revenue for a shipment or shipments is uncollectible, dispatcher, in this case, my name is here, will be held harmless and no penalty or deduction of fees will be made. That protects the dispatcher. All billing, invoicing, collection of revenue from customers, brokers, shippers, whoever, is the responsibility of the carrier, not the dispatcher. Your job is to find them loads, book those loads, collect the revenue. Now, you can add this extra service of helping them with their billing and invoicing and collection of revenue from the brokers or shippers. Then that gets into adding more to your dispatching percentage. But starting off as a dispatcher, I recommend just letting the carriers handle that through their factoring companies, as opposed to you. You know, unless you're ready to do that, I would just let the carriers handle that. But the dispatch agreement, the initial dispatch agreement, protects you as a dispatcher from these types of claims and legalities. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? We're going to wind it down a little bit. Very good training, actually.
Yeah, I got a question, Charles.
Yes, sir. Who's it? This Mike?
This is Mike. Now, I hear you said a few videos ago, you said, yeah, we can tweak your dispatcher agreement. Now, I'm hearing you saying about the, if a carrier try to get slick and cut you out and just deal with the shipper who's plugging them in. Now, I've looked all over. I've seen broker, shipper package. I've seen shipper broker. I never seen a fleet manager and shipper package. Where's that at?
Well, the dispatcher agreement is between you and the carrier. I mean, you can verbally say it could be like a fleet manager or operations manager agreement, and then you just structure it legally in a way that protects you. But this dispatch agreement does that initially. As you progress in your business and you decide, okay, yeah, I'm going to probably eventually need to restructure it to protect me if I'm going to deal directly with shippers and myself as the fleet manager and the carriers. So now I have not created one, put one in here, but there will be a need, especially if you're going to deal directly with shippers. This agreement is structured in such a way where dispatchers and carriers are dealing just with the brokers. Although there is verbiage in here that says about shippers as well, like all billing, invoicing, collections of revenue from customers, brokers, shippers, right there, consignees, and et cetera, are the sole responsibility of the carrier. But you may have to structure what's called maybe a operations manager agreement or a fleet manager or a shipper fleet manager agreement, depending on if you want to take that angle. If you're going to deal with directly with shippers, I would still take the angle of the shipper and the carrier agreement as opposed to the shipper and the broker agreement. So if you take the angle of the shipper-carrier agreement, so now it gets a little bit trickier, because now it's an agreement between your carrier and the shipper. So you structure it in a way where you include a clause in that agreement that protects the fleet manager slash dispatcher slash operations manager from any and all unethical practices. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to, you may have to get with an attorney to how to structure that, because you go to your attorney and say, hey, I'm the fleet manager for X amount of carriers. I want to structure an agreement between my carriers and shippers that I'm going to be dealing with in the future in such a way that it removes unethical practices. So I want to include some kind of clause that protects me if this shipper is dealing with my carriers, that it protects me if the shipper and the carrier tries to go outside of the parameters of our agreement. And then you will have an attorney who's more professional who will be able to handle that type of structuring of a contract. They will know what to do, but at least you give them the verbiage and you set up the stage for them so they can put that together. You say, okay, I'm the fleet operator, I'm the fleet manager, I'm the operations manager, I have carriers, I'm dealing directly with shippers and not brokers. I want to structure an agreement where it protects me as the fleet operator or operations manager or whatever title you call yourself in such a way to avoid unethical practices. And you can even put that verbiage literally in the agreement, you know, unethical practices or, you know, however you want to structure it. But you put that together, and then once that attorney sees that and then you put that agreement together, now you have before your carrier signs with that shipper or gets loads from that shipper, you have them sign that agreement, and then you send it to your shipper that you're dealing with and have them sign it. So now it's a legally binding, notarized even, contract. So but it's all about the verbiage. So basically, you want to conceptualize when you conceptualize, you think about, okay, what's the goal of me being an operations manager and having a carrier working with a direct shipper? What do I want to accomplish with this? And then you take that concept and you put it in the contract and get in front of attorneys and say, okay, how can I structure this in such a way? Because some people are going to argue and say, well, Dan, what you're trying to do is what a broker does. Why don't you just become a broker? Well, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. So people may ask that, well, damn, you're doing what a broker doing. If you become a broker, you can protect yourself because you got a bond, you got an authority, and all this other stuff. But if you are just a carrier a dispatcher or a fleet operations or a manager, how are you going to structure it in such a way to kind of overstep that broker authority? Well, then you structure an agreement in such a way that you have the carrier sign it saying that, okay, well, I'm not going to do any unethical thing. And then you have the shipper saying, okay, well, my agreement is between me and the carrier. Now, if you have an agreement with that carrier saying that he's not going to step outside of the bounds of this agreement to go behind your back, I'm saying it in layman's terms, but you want to structure it in legal terms where all parties involved understand that.
Mm-hmm. And so, now, when you get up, say if you get a fleet operation, packet together, and you give it to the shipper's assignment?
The shippers want to see, what the shippers want to see is, okay, the shipper's going to send you a load tender for loads, right? So when you send them your information, you're going to say, I'm the fleet manager for ABC Trucking. We have 10 assets. Those 10 assets could be different. Those 10 assets could be different owner-operators with their own authorities for different companies, but they're under the umbrella of ABC Trucking, or whatever the name of your dispatching. So you might want to restructure it. If you're going to deal directly with shippers, you might want to consider renaming the structure of your company to reflect that as opposed to being a dispatching service. You could say ABC Fleet Operations or whatever you want to call it to get around that whole dispatching concept, right?
Gotcha.
So when you go to the shipper, you say, okay, this is my fleet management. These are the assets that I have. They're all independent owner-operators with their own authorities. The shipper say, okay, well, I'm going to send my load tenders to your company, and you just make sure that there's a truck at my loading dock at 0800 or whatever time, and then we got a deal.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. I didn't know that a shipper will send a dispatcher load tenders. I thought they only send a load tenders to brokers.
They only send load tenders to brokers, but if they're dealing directly with the carriers, and because you have shippers who deal with brokers and you have shippers who deal directly with the carriers without the brokers, those load tenders still get sent. But now, if you step in on the carrier side and you're the fleet manager for that carrier, and that carrier just happened to be a part of your fleet, they're going to send the load tender to you because you're representing that carrier. Because they're thinking you're under that carrier's authority, but you're actually your own company. But so it depends on how you word it. So now you're getting around being that whole broker thing. And I'm not telling you to be deceitful with it. I'm just saying.
Exactly. I got you.
Yeah. So if you are, because shippers do deal with brokers, they also deal with carriers. So now you're under the auspices of your carrier and their authority, but they're under your company when they're dealing with you. So, but when you go to the shipper, you're going to go as a representative of your carrier. So, but the relationship between you and your carrier is working with you. You guys have a dispatcher agreement, but the shipper doesn't need to know that. When you go to the shipper as a representative, a fleet manager or operations manager for your carrier's company, because you're going under the auspices of your carrier's company, the shipper doesn't need to know that you and your carrier has a dispatch agreement. They don't need to know that.
Exactly. I got you.
Right. So when you go to the shipper to try to represent your carrier, you're going under the carrier's authority. Okay, I'm working with ABC Trucking. This is their authority. Send the load tenders to my email, and I'll make sure my carrier's at that location at 0800. That's how you do that.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Got you.
I think the time is up. 2 hours. Any more questions?
Yeah, Charles, one last thing.
Yeah.
If you structure it properly, like in a situation with the direct shipper and the carrier, basically, like for example, the factoring companies also are involved. Let's say, for example, as a broker, like you give a load to the carrier, and the factory company is called recourse or non-course, where they don't pay. So if that happens, the carrier knows, okay, I can still go after the broker. But if you want to work directly, let's say as a company, like a dispatcher company or a manager company, what you can do is you can buy insurance. There's insurance out there who will cover you. Where there's a case where, let's say, a shipper does not want to pay the carrier, but if you have a contract with the carrier that shows, God forbid, in a situation where like that, where if I was a broker, you can come after me after my bond, but you can buy these insurances where you can buy like a $1 million policy, $3 million. It's called I forgot the name, but they can if they have a dispute like that, if a carrier knows that, hey, if let's say God forbid in a situation where I'm not gonna get paid, this guy has like a $1 million policy, I'm covered. They're gonna be happy, believe me.
Right, and if you're working with a carrier who has a factory company, whether you're dealing with a broker on the other end or a shipper on the other end, depending on the type of factory, whether it's recourse or non-recourse, the type that covers the type that covers the collecting of revenue in case a shipper or a broker doesn't pay. So whether that's recourse or non-recourse, if you don't get paid by the factory company goes after the shippers for the money for the carrier just as much as they go after the broker for the money for the carrier. It's the same concept. It doesn't matter if it's a broker or a shipper. If you have the type of factory that protects the carriers in case they're not paid by the parties who owe them money, that revenue is due, then it doesn't matter if it's a broker or shipper, they're going to go after that person. They're going to pay the carrier up front, and then they're going to worry about going after the remaining monies on the back end. This is the point of having that type of factory coverage. So that's why you pay a higher percentage. The factory is 1 to 5%. 1 to 3% type factory doesn't have that clause. The 3 to 5, the higher percentage, 5%, that protection in case they're not paid. So they pay that amount. So.
Yeah, when I was trying to book the loads, they asked me, in your 10%, is factoring included? I said, no, you have to bring your own. So there's transparency. So
right.
You're going to know exactly how much the shipper is paying, because they told me there are a lot of bad situations where dispatchers or managers, they were offering them their factoring services, but they were changing the rate cons on them. So they found out. So that's what I told them, listen, with me, it's total transparency. You bring your own factoring. You know how much you're going to get paid. You will get paid first. Then you're going to pay me. So there's no way I can cheat you in any way.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, and the reason why they asked you, probably the reason why they asked you was factory included. They may not have had a factory company. So if that's the case, then you would have to consider one of the options of the brokers that they pay. You know, quick pay, ACH, or paper check. So there you go. All right, guys.
Thank you.
Great training. I will see you guys on Wednesday evening. As always, let me put my contact number. And email. And I will have this video posted shortly on the back office training portal. I just got to run up to the warehouse for a second to drop off something. All right, guys. Thanks again. Good training, too. Good questions.